Welcome to the EnsoReal Paradigm Shifters podcast. This show is for and about the entrepreneurs who work to improve and expand our human well-being by bringing cutting-edge technologies and ideas to life. We are Marie and Magnus Dahlgren, your hosts. In this episode, we talk with Ken Sperry. Ken is a Kundalini yoga instructor, a hip-hop artist, and an Indigo light warrior. And now, here's our conversation with Ken Sperry.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Everything is fine. We're happy to see you here.
All right. I'm good to go.
Okay, great. So, Kenny, could you please share with us your strangest talent?
My strangest talent. I have this aspect where, I have a tendency to not take life so seriously. In the essence where, I don't know, I guess it would be a talent to a talent of natural non-attachment. We're in such a world of, physical world. So, I have a very natural ability to not be so attached to outer circumstance in the physical domain.
That's interesting. Did you develop this talent with time? And did you put actual efforts to develop this talent, or it's something that you were born with? How do you think?
I would say that it's a little bit of both. It's something that was very natural to me, and at the same time, it's something that I also worked to develop to make stronger, I would say. Yeah, it's something where it's like it was always been natural, to me, just like anything else. Like I would say, a musician being natural at an instrument, but then at the same time needing to practice to be able to develop and hone it.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. And can you tell maybe are there any benefits to perceive life in this way, to be not attached too much to everything?
Yeah, attachment is connected to the ego. The ego has its basis in the physical world that we perceive with our five senses. So when you come to this place where you're just observing as the observer, you're not attached to this world that in the ancient scriptures say is really an illusion, right? So the benefits is that you're able to operate through life from a perspective that is very, very grounded, where you're the center and everything else is spinning around you. So you create the change within yourself. You create the circumstance within yourself, and then reality follows. Versus if you're attached to outcomes and you're attached to the outer world, you're always reacting to your external environment instead of responding, I would say. It allows you to just operate from that center.
Oh, that's great. And I have heard such an opinion that if you're not attached, you automatically can't experience love. Is it true, or it's not correct? What is your opinion on this?
Right. So my opinion on this is that it's all of, see, language is funny because we'll say, all right, so non-attachment, that means you have no emotions, there's no love, and it's just like this state of just, nothingness. Mm-hmm. I more look at it as more of a sense where the non-attachment comes from the place of ultimate love for everything. So when you say like you're not attached to circumstances, that you're not placing an outcome, or you're not expecting a specific outcome out of everything. So it's more like, it's just like an emotion. You experience the emotion and it flows through you, versus you experience an emotion and then you hold on and you attach yourself to that emotion. And then it just brings you down, 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 down. So it's more like just a very natural, flowing with the waves of the ocean instead of just allowing those waves to crash into you. So I would say that it actually comes from love. Yeah.
Surfing. Okay. And could you please share what unconditional love means for you?
Unconditional love for me, it means, just as you're saying, no conditions. And when you break down, okay, you have love with no conditions, is you're operating from the place where the other person is you, where everybody that you experience a reflection of yourself. And so when you're operating from this place, you have this love that's not really tied into the person's personality, or is tied into the way that they treat you or the way that they operate. Like, we all kind of sometimes will have these fixated points, like, you need to operate like this because this is how I operate, and when you don't, then it's trouble. I don't love you anymore. So it's more like it's the same way, like you guys as parents, the same way that you have for those kids. They could drive you crazy, drive you nuts, but there's always this love that is just there no matter what.
Yes, that's great. And I have another question. This state of non-attachment, but at the same time state of unconditional love for everybody inside yourself, is it more, do you perceive it more as a gift, or maybe there are pains which you experience from time to time because you're in this state of mind or in state of being?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say it's definitely a gift in the sense where it brings you extreme bliss. It brings you extreme joy. The difficulties can come in where you're realizing, like, you want to share this joy, and you see so many people that are in pain, that are in all these traumas and these struggles and stuff like that. So it can become a complex where you're like, you want to spread that joy to them. So it can be from a position where of like almost of extreme urgency, where you're just like, hey guys, listen, it's like not that serious, let go. So sometimes if you can get caught up into that. So it all depends on where you're at, and day to day.
Do you do anything to maintain this state?
Yes.
Or do you keep honing somehow?
Yes. Yes, most definitely. So the same way how we have physical exercise, right? So if you stop working out, your muscles begin to atrophy, and they begin to break down. To keep a concurrent body in health, you have to have concurrent exercise. What I personally do is several fronts. One, I make sure I'm giving my body the right foods. I'm giving it high alkaline, plant-based, high electrical foods, so that my body is able to operate at its highest efficiency. And that allows the brain to operate at its highest efficiency, the heart, and then it's also a daily meditation practice. I practice Kundalini yoga. So by maintaining, doing a practice every single day, I'm able to connect and begin my day. It's what we call the sadhana, where we have a spiritual practice that we do every day to begin our day, to connect with Creator and to go inside. And so you're able to create that balance by balancing your external worlds with an internal connection through daily meditation.
Thank you very much, Ken. And can you please explain a little bit more about Kundalini yoga for us and our listeners? What is this yoga all about?
It's all about awareness. It's known as the mother of all yogas. It is the seed from which all the other branches grow from. It uses all 8 limbs, which means it basically uses mantra. It uses mudra, like hand gestures. It uses visualization, and asana, body positions, and it also incorporates the way that you live life. So with Kundalini yoga in general, physically it's working with your nervous system, which it's the intermediate between your external worlds and how you process it internally. And then it does that through strengthening the nervous system. And then you have the glandular system in the body, which is known as the hormonal system, or also the guardian of your health. So by being able to balance the hormones in the body, the hormonal system, and balancing the nervous system, it allows your entire body to go into homeostasis, which is a fancy way of saying everything locks into rhythm. Everything synchronizes. All the organs synchronize with each other, and that allows you to operate from a central point, to operate from the nucleus of your soul, because everything is in balance. Your mind, your body, your spirit, also known as your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. And so it allows you to have be a direct participant in your own evolution of your consciousness.
Interesting. And you said that it's not only about mind and about spirit, it's more like a whole approach to human being as complex being. And I would like to ask you, what are the most frequent requests people are coming to you with to seek help?
Most of the time is to have a deeper experience of reality, a deeper connection with source, with spirit, with your spirit.
Yeah.
It really pulls you into yourself. Different people could have different reasons, but at the end of the day, what it allows is that it allows this almost split to happen within your consciousness, where you become simultaneously the observer and the one being observed. So in essence, it allows your consciousness to almost pull outside of yourself, where you begin to be able to examine your actions and your thoughts and the way that you deal with the world in a much more vivid way. So it initiates you to really dive in deep to work on yourself, to say, oh wow, I see that I have this issue, and I see I have this issue, and it just really allows you to have a much more deeper look at yourself and give you the ability to bring yourself back into balance and bring yourself back into to recalibrate back to how we were as original humans.
Thank you.
You say that you practice Kundalini yoga to get in touch with deeper understanding. How did you come to go down the path of Kundalini yoga and the diet you were describing?
Yeah, so it started off just that I've always been into esoterics and metaphysics, and trying to figure out the whole question on why are we here, how did we get here, where are we going, what's the meaning of life, and all that stuff. So through my studies, the word Kundalini kept popping up over and over. It resonated with me for some particular reason. And then I was walking down the street one day, and I saw a sign that said Kundalini Yoga, introductory, try it out. This was just something inside just told me to try it. And I took my first class, and I was just so amazed. I had such a profound experience. And it just, for me, what was so exciting is that it almost allows you to be a surgeon in the precision that you can approach your own consciousness. So there's what we call kriyas, sets of exercises. So that's what I really found fascinating about it, was that, wow, I can, if I need to work on my depression, or I need to bring myself back into my heart space, or I can do an exercise to allow myself to ground, to come back down to earth. Every aspect of the human condition, Kundalini Yoga offers very precise exercises, meditations that you can do. So, that's the journey, what it got me to it. And that's kind of like the experience I've had with it that, kept me at it.
All right.
That's interesting. And what would be your definition of human being?
My definition of human being would be, it would be a multi-dimensional vehicle. So you have the spirit that is inside of the body, and the physical structure is the human being, the combination of the spirit inside of that body. Human beings, by definition, in our original state, we're multi-dimensional, meaning that we have 8 chakras, and each one of those chakras connect with frequencies and with dimensional energies, and that at our earliest time, we're very, very advanced. Our pineal pituitary glands were fully activated, which gave us sixth sense, intuition. So, and the most out of everything, the grounding of the human being, extremely loving, and we operate from the heart center. And the state of the world now is
And
what
happen.
happens when human beings fall out of balance.
Mhm. And why did it happen? How do you think? Why were disbalanced? And what to do
Right. Well, yeah. So the ancient texts, they talk about astrological ages, and they talk about the position of Earth within the Milky Way, and the center of the Milky Way, the closest that the Earth was there. What they termed was the Golden Age, was when we were in direct alignment with the planets, and we were at the closest proximity to the center of the Milky Way. And they say the center of the Milky Way is where all life springs from, and then it goes throughout the solar system and throughout the galaxy. And that there, that when you research like human history, there was, different aspects of where you have light energy, the God energy, and then you also have dark energy, which operates almost like parasitic. So, depending on which angle that you take it from,
Yeah.
they termed it like the Great Fall, from where human beings became susceptible to this energy that was able to hack into the frequency of the human brain.
Mhm.
And it's just like in real life when you have parasites, if you get them in your stomach, they attack the neural cortex and they make you crave certain foods to feed them. So the tax, what they say is that this energy, it basically was able to have human beings crave certain aspects and go into a lower frequency state. And when a large amount of human beings drop to this frequency, it lowered ourselves in dimension and stuff like that. It's super complex, but I would say at the end of the day, this energy was able to infiltrate with because the planet is rotating and we're going throughout the solar system, and all the ages are, the closer we are to the center of the Milky Way, the more we are connected to source. The further away that we go from that as we go through these ages, the more susceptible we are to different energies and energies that may be out there. So it's when we fell away from source is when we started experiencing reality the way that we do today.
That's interesting. And you mentioned a few times already source. What is this source?
Right.
How do you think?
So source is the energy of love that is the foundation of the entire universe. And you could imagine us having like cords. So all biological living entities have energetic cords that connect to source. Source is constantly refueling us with life force energy. It is if you just, easy way of looking at it, if you look at a metaphor, you take a piece of paper, you rip that piece of paper into a billion pieces. All of those pieces are every atom, every animal, every person, every tree, and all together is the source. But through this separation, or this illusion of separation, we look at it as something outside of ourselves. But it's that which animates atomic structures, and its energy is that of love.
That's great. Sounds fantastic. And again, I practice actually for a few years yoga, not Kundalini yoga, but yoga too. And I know that according to the teachings, we live at the end of so-called Kali Yuga, if I'm not mistaken. And could you explain to me, to us, and to our listeners what is about to happen? Because I know that we live on the edge of these big events. So could you explain a little bit more? What is about to happen with us as humanity, and what we should do to succeed?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And it's a multi-leveled answer, but so basically it's like this is, we have you would call a veil between the seen and the unseen, meaning that we have the physical world that's in front of us, but there are energies beyond the physical worlds that are the seed of everything that we see, right? So in essence, what's happening is that this veil that separates, right, this illusion that separates people from people, and the unseen from the seen, is beginning to dissolve. When that dissolve is beginning to happen, we're going to be witnessing reality change in the manner where this whole time we've been looking at the world in a mechanical viewpoint, like it is not malleable, like it is not bendable. We're going to be realizing that reality is extremely malleable and bendable, and that its structure is held together through the inner experience of the human being. So these old paradigms that we've held on to, like that the world's mechanical, that it's you versus me, is going to be falling apart. And we're right in the middle of it. We're in essence, it's what we're witnessing is we're witnessing these old paradigms begin to fall apart, which was the age of Pisces, where you could hide information. Now we're entering into the age of information, where we have all access to all knowledge. And so through this access of all this knowledge, we're also at a state where, you know, there's going to be a breakdown in a lot of people within the nervous system, like when we talk about nervous breakdowns and stuff like this, because the nervous system, again, is connected to your external reality and how you process it. So as the external reality begins to change and we have impossibilities become possibilities, like with quantum mechanics and stuff like that, where there can be breakdowns within society on an emotional level. Because, again, we've been operating like reality is a certain way, and we've been holding on to those belief systems, having those attachments to those belief systems, and we identify with those belief systems like they are us, connected with the ego. So it's almost like a dying process, because as what we thought was real begins to die and we begin to see beyond the veil and see what's been controlling the planet for thousands and thousands of years, there's going to be some definitely psychological trauma and stuff. And again, this is all connected to Kundalini Yoga as well, because Kundalini Yoga, when Yogi Bhajan brought it from India out to the West in 1969, it was for the exact time that we're in right now. It was to prepare the human species for the great shift, for what the Mayans called. So, you know, this going through the Maya, the illusion, and finding out the real mechanical reality. And it does this through allowing yourself to use the physical body to bring it back into balance. And the more that the body comes back into balance, you almost create like an eye of the storm, where everything around you is breaking down, but because you're not attaching to it, you're not holding on to that sinking ship, you're able to be like a pillar amongst everything else that's shaking around you. And that's what people can do. I suggest that at this time is the most powerful time to begin to cleanse the diet, to begin to eat as least amount of processed foods as possible, to begin to wean ourselves off of these more, any type of foods that are either processed or pesticides. Do the best that we can to eat food close from the farm as possible, mostly plant-based if we can. And this is because it allows the body to operate at its highest efficiency. And, you know, especially if people do eat meat and they eat meat from like factory farms and stuff like that, there's going to be really a lot of trouble on the body, because the frequency of the planet is changing. And so all those other meats and stuff like that, especially if it comes from factory farms where the animals have trauma within the blood that's released and we're eating that trauma, it's going to make things very difficult, because the processes, the way that we experience our internal reality is going to be intensified. So any type of drama or trauma that we have happening inside of us is going to be being released. Like we've seen, especially in America with the politics and stuff, and, you know, a lot of people just bugging out and you know, going through a lot of just, you know, releasing all this emotional stuff, because it's, you know, we're going through that planetary subconscious detox. And so things will be getting quite interesting.
Ken, and you mentioned previously that you use mantras, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And also you mentioned frequencies, and that the frequency is changing. I know that different frequencies, they impact our bodies, our spirits, our minds in different ways. For instance, some frequencies can heal, some can even repair our DNA. Could you explain maybe a little bit more the technique of how mantras can do all this stuff to our bodies, our spirits, and our minds.
Right. Well, several aspects of mantras and how they affect us. And so when you look at the physical world, it's made out of atoms. What holds the atoms together is sound. We see this in the ancient texture or ancient scriptures where they say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, meaning in the beginning was sound, and sound was God. And also in esoterics, it says that the dimension of sound comes before the dimension of geometry, and the dimension of geometry is the physical world that we see when atoms form geometrical shapes. So, and what holds those shapes is the vibration, and the sound is what creates that vibration. So when we say mantra, several things are happening. One is that your tongue is hitting specific parts of the mouth, of the palate within the mouth, and those are specific acupressure points. So it's activating acupressure points. So you can imagine like a computer putting in code. Those acupressure points send signals to the neurons within the brain. So it allows the brain to activate certain centers that are dormant, and it allows you to change the waves, whether you're going from alpha to delta to theta. It brings the vibration to a still motion. Also, what you're doing is that you're using repetition. You're using repetition because you're creating a rhythm. You're creating a rhythm because when you create a rhythm, and when you create a rhythm through sound, it allows the atomic structures of the physical body to begin to resonate at the same frequency. And so a big example how you can see how sound effects matter is that if you use opera singer hits a specific frequency, they can make glass shatter. That's because that frequency of the sound matches the rate of the vibration, which is the frequency of the atoms. And once it locks up, it creates a connection there. And so when we're using mantras, we're programming the brain. We're using the sound frequency that affects the atoms that make up all of our organs and make up our blood and all that stuff. And the repetition allows everything to go into a steady rhythm.
You also, thank you very much. It's very interesting, very fascinating. And you mentioned previously that yoga can actually, or exercising yoga actually can help to develop intuition. Is it true?
Right.
And what is your definition of intuition?
So the way that yoga affects your intuition is that your intuition comes from the pituitary gland. All of the glands secrete hormonal fluids that go throughout the body. The pituitary helps to balance, is the captain of your entire glandular system. So it regulates the rate of secretion that each gland produces. So through operating with the pituitary gland, through yoga, through using specific mantras, certain kriyas that help to activate this gland, you're able to create a balance in the amount of secretion that all of the glands release. When they release this secretion into the body at a specific rate, what happens is that all the neurons within the brain, again, all sync up together. They all line up. They're all operating as like one system.
Yeah.
And when this happens, it allows all the faculties of your consciousness to come into play. And so your intuition, chemically, that's what's happening. But on a energetic level, what the intuition is that it's almost like you have you that is inside of you, right? Your soul operates the body. But at the same time, you have a higher consciousness that extends beyond the physical body, that extends beyond the physical dimension. And you could imagine that higher self or that higher consciousness being like a bird that is flying over a mountaintop, and it can see all the valleys and all the ways to get to your destination. So what the intuition is it's like your Google Maps. It allows you to tap into your electromagnetic, right, to your electromagnetic fields, and it gives you the sixth sense. It gives you a knowing through the body, a knowing through the heart center, right? Because that pituitary begins to leak. All the glands come into balance. When they come into balance, you're operating from that heart center. And when you're operating from that heart center, you're completely present, you're completely aware, and it gives you a knowing without knowing. It's like a spider sense. You know, you can know, you don't have to look around that corner, and the feeling runs through the body like, I know that there's danger around that corner, or I know that there's something beautiful around that corner. It gives you a knowing that's beyond five senses.
That's interesting. I have a question about the sound, because we were discussing sounds and frequencies, and I know that in yoga the most important sound is the sound Om. Is this the sound of life? What does the sound mean, and why
Right.
it's important?
Yeah, so you know, now I wouldn't say that Om is the most important. It's one of the most used. There's several different mantras depending on what you want.
Yeah.
Om itself, it's the sound frequency of creation, right? It's the sound frequency of creation in action. In Kundalini Yoga, we also use several different mantras. One of the ones we use is not Om, but is Ong, O-N-G, which vibrates within the navel cavity. And you know, that's another mantra that's used, and similar to Om.
Recently, I was talking with a very interesting person, and he told me the story of his life. When a year ago he became very spiritual, and the reason why he started to believe in himself as spirit in a physical body, and he saw the world absolutely in a different way, was his experience with ayahuasca, if I'm not mistaken. So my question is, how do you think, is it healthy, first of all, to do such procedures that he did, and can yoga to a certain degree substitute through breathing, through asanas, through mantras, through kriyas, what these people experience? Can you explain this, please?
Yeah, very, very, very good question. So ayahuasca is a plant medicine.
Okay.
Medicine we drink when we're sick, when we're out of balance, right? When we're searching for answers. When you take these plant medicines, you're connecting with the earth energy, but at the same time, the energy that you're connecting with the earth, she shows you yourself. That's one of the biggest expressions of dealing with ayahuasca and dealing with certain plant medicines, is that it shows you yourself. And it does this through the nervous system and through the glandular system, the exact same systems that we use through yoga, specifically actively through Kundalini Yoga. So with Kundalini Yoga, you get the same effect. You might not be talking to the vine. You maybe not. What it does is that it gives you the results. What it does is that it allows you to examine yourself. I don't know if I lost you. Guys kind of froze there. All right. So just let me know if you lose me. So what it does is that it gives you an experience of yourself, and it allows you to observe yourself. The benefits, though, is that so when you're doing Kundalini Yoga, you're releasing the hormones, the glandular system at a very controlled rate. The nervous system, you're operating that, you're strengthening that. So, right, you're strengthening it so it can handle the amount of electricity, meaning the amount of information, of awareness, of the way that you experience reality. As your experience and your awareness increases, so does the nervous system. So it allows you to have a very controlled, slow process to gain here. The problem with a lot of different plant medicines is that it can imagine just like music, when music goes from the green to the yellow to the red and everything's like max. That's an issue that can happen with plant medicines and with different psychedelics, is that it can override your system. It can push the nervous system to extreme levels and push the glandular system to extreme levels. And then you also run the risk, because your system is being forced to the highest levels, and it is basically hitting the rooftop. Everything hits the roof, so everything's hitting the max. You're maxing out. The nervous system is maxing out. The gland system is maxing out. So what happens is that you imagine like, so remember what I was talking about energies? You have positive energies and you have negative energies. That these negative energies, people called spirits, people called demons, people called parasites. They have so many different names for them. But these energies, you almost become like a light bulb that all of a sudden opens up. You know, moths are attracted to that light. So because all your system is at its highest level and you're not consciously controlling it, you have your electromagnetic field, the field of energy that protects your physical vehicle, becomes open. So if you don't have specific shamans there that know the songs to sing, that know the tobacco ceremonies, that know the Palo Santo and the palm leaves and the whole 9 yards, that you can open yourself up to attack of parasite energies that could attach themselves energetically to you. And then, you know, and then you could experience all types of problems, which is a big issue that a lot of people have experienced, you know, with it. So I'm not against plant medicines, but at the same time, doing the yoga, you can get the exact same effect without the risk.
Yes, that's how I felt, to be honest, that yoga is more natural for our bodies and spirit and mind. It's more nurturing all your systems and developing yourself instead of forcing, as you said, into some experience you can control actually, and can understand completely. That's very interesting, exciting. Ken, you said that you
Indigo Light Warrior.
My question is, could you explain this a little bit to us and to our listeners? Why it is so? Why do you call yourself that? And why it's important?
So it's so it's a bit of a deep story, because you got to go into like what an indigo is. Indigo. So you have the planet, and you have the human beings that are on the planet. And then I again talked about this spiritual war of light and of dark, right? This dance of this light energy and this dark energy. So the planet itself is almost held on a lockdown from energies and entities, what people can call extraterrestrials, but might be interdimensionals, that have locked down our planet. Through what they created a electromagnetic grid, right? So this is the reason why the entire planet, we're at this lower frequency, and so, you know, you had an issue where, because you have to go into what the human being is. The human being is actually a composite of multi-dimensional extraterrestrials and other galaxies that allows any spirit from the lowest level to the highest level to manifest into this physical vehicle. Okay, so the planet itself, the Earth itself, is a giant experiment. The human on this planet, that this energy that has wrapped itself around the planet, it exists outside of our frequency dimension, but it has almost acted like a parasite to leech onto this energy of human consciousness. So this has been a dilemma to break. There's all these aliens. There's aliens that are nefarious, that have not so good intentions for us, or other aliens that have beneficial intentions for us. So they had to figure out how to free the human species, but to be able to do so without interfering with free will. Free will is universal law. So the plan was to have 3 waves of souls that would come onto the planet to help wake up the rest of the species, to help to wake up the planet. Because the more that we can awaken and go into a heart space, we're able to break out of this frequency lock that's been on the planet for like 1,000 years, and, you know, more so than that. So the indigo ties into one of those ways that you have the crystal kids. First was the indigo, the crystal, and the star kids. So the human species has been changing on a DNA level Some of these souls come directly from source without any prior experience on any planet, on any solar system. They come directly from source. That's mostly the younger kids that are being born right now. The indigo ties into anybody that's been born in like, I believe it's the late 70s through the 80s, all the way up to like almost the early 90s, that have come to the planet almost awakened a little bit. So we're all born with amnesia, but some of these souls are being born with having an understanding like, oh, I'm here for a mission. I'm supposed to be doing something here. Yeah. And that these souls, as they would come in and then they would integrate into society, that they would have certain imprints within their magnetic fields that would create changes within the human beings, that they would have instincts within inside their blueprint on why they come to this planet, what is their purpose on this planet, and that by following their heart, following their intuition, they would be led on a path that would help to wake up the species. Like this is the same thing Jesus was trying to do. He was trying to break through the grid. This is what Buddha was trying to do, break people through the grid. So all these ancient teachers, they're all trying to do the same thing, to wake up humanity to the true aspects of reality so that we can break free from this frequency lock on the planet. And the reason why this is the most powerful time is because we're at that cusp period between when Earth is coming back to the center of the Milky Way, where it's the most subtle, it's going from the most gross, the most separate, to the most subtle, which is the most unification. So it's an extreme time for opportunity. So all these souls that have come onto the planet is a very specific strategy. And so the indigo it ties into the aura, ties into the mission, and the warrior it ties into the fact that we're in a spiritual war, and that by being able to come onto this planet and spread this truth to as many human beings as possible and change ourselves from the inside out, we're able to, the goal is to free the planet and to free the human species from this energetic lock that has been on the planet for quite some time.
And you said that we will break through this prison, basically. And what's next? What's after that?
So we're civilization zero, which basically means that we're at this point where we kind of haven't learned to like get along. We're still having wars, and we're still having all that stuff goes on. So as we move through this shift and this transformation, we're going to be transforming from the inside out. And so as we go through this rift and we begin to transform from the inside out and experience the subtleties of reality, experience reality on energetic levels. So this deals with, we're going to be experiencing free energy that's based on imploding the atoms, going inside the atoms, the same way the human being goes inside to connect with source. And we're leaving combustible, like explosion atoms, which is, combustible engines and all the technology that we use. Oil, gas is all based on exploding, the destructive force of nature. So as we go into this age where it's more about energy, it's more about light healing, it's more about sound healing, it's more about quantum physics, the quantum fields, where the basis of reality is going to be all about energy. And energy is the foundation, and then physical is the result of energy. And so what says that we begin to expect is that we free ourselves from this planetary lock by going into our heart space, which has an effect on the collective consciousness. When that collective consciousness raises in frequency, it is able to break apart this electromagnetic grid on the planet. And when that happens, we begin to interact with different beings in different galaxies and different solar systems. And we leave this kind of alone space that we've kind of been in this whole time here on Earth, but saying, are aliens real? Are they not real? And then we're going to be finding out that yes, they are very real, and which makes common sense if you just look at it. And so then we reach like the next level where we're raised in consciousness, and we're able to traverse different dimensions, different solar systems, and galaxies, and we become a galactic race.
Interesting. There is such a thing as Akashic records. What's the meaning of these records, and Can you please explain a little bit?
So your soul inside of a body. Your body has an electromagnetic field. Imagine cassette tape. The cassette tape, through magnetism, records information onto the tape. Mm-hmm. Your magnetic field, your field is recording you experience in every single life that you live. It's the database. You are a feedback mechanism of creator, meaning that everything you see, hear, taste, your entire experience of reality is processed through the electromagnetic fields. That goes into the Akashic records. Remember the piece of paper and God being that piece of paper and ripping it to a billion shreds, and we're all those little tiny pieces of paper? Well, we're that feedback mechanism where it allows, because you, your husband, me, everybody that we know in existence is source. But we're experiencing reality as separate beings. So what happens is that you can have your experiences, I have my experiences, and when those experiences come together, it creates new. So that the Akashic records is the consciousness, the energetic database of God consciousness, and it's all the information coming from every single soul that ever existed as the feedback mechanism. So we absorb information and then it goes into the Akashic records. And so when you die and you leave your body, right, all of your memory is not in your brain, it's in the magnetic field. So that's when you leave the body, you are the judge, right? So you experience your life from the way that you made everybody feel. And it's all in this body magnetic field that leaves the earth, goes back to source, and is stored in the Akashic records.
Interesting.
And so it's the database.
Database. That's interesting. And who are the guardians in the library of Akashic records? Who are these people, or who are these souls?
So when you look at reality, you find a tree produces an apple that has a seed that produces a tree that produces apples, meaning that it's a fractal, right? So that seed contains the tree. So it's hierarchies. So you have God consciousness, and then you have many gods and many gods, and they go down levels and levels and frequencies. So there's gods in the 9th dimension, the 10th dimension, the 11th dimension, angelic creatures, and all this stuff like this. So those guardians are different aspects of God consciousness down the filtration system. You could imagine it like you have complete unity, everything is connected, and then there's stages. The higher rate of frequency, the more subtle that energy is. And so those guardians are just different aspects of consciousness that guard and that deal and maintain the universe. The same way how you have entities that, the spirit of the ocean, the spirit of the earth, all of these are gods and goddesses that maintain the balance of the universe.
That's interesting. It's a very magical world we live in.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing to me, is that the world is so much more magical than a lot of people realize. Is actually the closer that you get fantasy, the closer that you get to stuff that's way out there, the closer to the truth that you get to.
Huh.
I'm trying to lead into the pyramids. You build pyramids,
right? So I'm Orgon pyramids, known as like organite. Organite is a word that was created by Dr. Wilhelm Reich, or he created the word orgon, came up with the word orgon to basically just describe life force energy. So Dr. Wilhelm Reich was a student of Freud, and he came from Austria. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Wilhelm Reich found that through creating this system of alternating layers of organic and inorganic substances, in the particular case of using small particles of metal inside of a carbon-based fiberglass resin, that all metal attracts energy. And because it's the resin is a carbon-based on the molecular structure, means that it holds energy, absorbs and releases energy. You're using the combination of the particles of metal the fiberglass and the quartz silica to create the shape of a pyramid, which acts as an energetic funnel. It creates a vortex energy that comes off of the top, because you have all four corners, you have a base, and they concentrate to a point. The same way how you have a magnifying glass and you shine it over light, when that light hits a point, you create energy power. You're able to like burn through, you're able to concentrate, create a concentrated amount of power, a concentrated amount of energy. So what the orgone pyramids do is that they're able to pull in any type of energy that is discoherent, that is not harmonized. This is what negative energy is. This is what the energy that's released off of like electromagnetism, like electromagnetic pollution from cell phones and computers. All of that is, the energy itself is not harmonized. So what the orgone pyramids do is that they help to harmonize the energy around the pyramid, around the field of energy that it's in. And so it's a device that is constantly almost like a filter of energy. The same way I have water filters, it kind of filters out that energy and allows pure water to come through the other side of the filter. Well, this is what the pyramid does, is that it funnels all that discoherent, stagnant energy, and it allows it to be free-flowing, moving, harmonized energy. And that allows the cells in your body to develop much more rapidly. This harmonized energy, negative ions, and the negative ions is what we find when we're in nature or around waterfalls. That's what helps with cellular communication, cellular development. So it allows us as grounding, allows us as biological entities to operate at our highest efficiency level. It's basically a long way of saying this allows you to bring nature, and so, because it allows this communication to operate. It's extremely beneficial for human health, because it's all about harmony. Either energy is not harmonized, it's discoherent, it's an instrument that's out of tune, sounds horrible, a singing voice is out of tune, versus like the music's flowing beautifully, it's harmonized. And so negative ions is harmonized energy.
I know that there are different kinds of meditation.
Mostly I'm familiar with the meditations within Kundalini yoga is my field. But I can say from meditation, the ones that I'm familiar with is that you have static meditation where you're silently sitting and you're observing the breath. The eyes are closed. You're focused on what is happening inside of you. And then there's moving meditations, where you're using different breath, different mantras, and all of these moving exercises. No matter what the meditation that you're doing, the purpose of it is to calm the waters. The waters being the thoughts, is to bring yourself to this center, to this void, this space between space. It's sort of like you're able to connect with the creator by doing that, because everything else is noise and everything else is static. If you look at like the Big Bang, the Big Bang happened, particles, everything's around, everything's everywhere. But between all that is the void, is silent, that stillness. And so meditation is about recalibrating. It's about bringing yourself back into balance, back to your center. And through that center, that stillness, you're able to connect with source.
I have a question. Who is this creator?
Is creator and source the same?
Yeah. Creator and source, many names. Creator, source, God, whatever you want to call it. Love is my favorite. So it's that which binds all of physical reality together. It's the head of everything. It's who we are. It's where we come from. It's home.
It's
harmony, balance.
Can you tell us, please, a story of a time in your journey when you experienced the biggest aha moment?
There was the time when I had my first experience of, I guess you would call ego death, where it was one day where I was just walking down the street and I was listening to, it was one of Jay-Z's songs called some Life is But a Dream. And I was listening to the song, and the batteries died. In the same part of that song, when the batteries died, there was a car driving next to me that was playing the same song at the same part of the verse where my music stopped. And that car proceeded to drive as I walked, turning when I turned, until the song was over. And I was like, that's interesting. And then I went throughout my day, and then I'm going onto a train, and I step onto the train. And as I get on, I look to my left, and I see somebody step on at the same time. And for some reason, I'm not sure what triggered it, but it brought me back to that moment with the music. And then all of a sudden, I kind of had this this thought of I don't know how to explain it, of like a mathematics synchronicity or something like that. Then I just kind of got this telepathic download of like what you would call like synchronistic control, mathematics, the timing of nature, being at the right place at the right time, sort of situation, and the experience of reality being much more malleable and much more bendable than we perceive it to be. And I had this feeling. I questioned the feeling, and it was almost like a whisper that sent chills up my spine. That telepathically, a telepathic whisper that the direction I was looking in was correct, and that the questions that I had through growing up were correct. And from that, I all of a sudden I was not me anymore. I was just awareness. I was everybody on the train. I was the train, and it was the most ecstatic feeling of bliss and of love that is beyond words. It's it's incredible. And then as fast as it happened was as fast as it disappeared, and it was like I was out of my body, then shot right back into my body, and I opened my eyes, and just tears were rolling down my face, of tears of joy, not really caring like anybody looking at me on the train or anything, and just it was extreme, like ecstatic bliss. And it showed me that that through that experience, that this stuff is not theory, that is actually very real. And not only is it very real, but it is more real than the reality that we are immersed in of the five senses.
You told that we are multidimensional beings. And my question is, do you contact with the multidimensional entities from other dimensions? And if yes, who are they?
I personally have not. I just, from my experience, I've always just experienced either this subtle divinity within in connection with source. I haven't really dealt with any channeling. I know that there are people that do channel or that do connect with different beings and different entities and things like that. But I have not personally experienced that. All of my dimensions haven't opened yet.
Okay. That's cool. Could you please tell us if there is something we didn't ask you about, but you would like to talk about today?
Well, one thing I'm really interested in, and it's a really it's a tough subject for a lot of people, is the connection between what's happening in America, the whole like political scene, tied into the ancient times of Atlantis, and tied into the shift of consciousness. That so there's you have the whole election going on, and what a lot of people don't realize, because my two personal favorite subjects is consciousness and studying human history.
Huh?
And so you find out some very peculiar things when you study human history, and that's that you have families that are royalty, that through blood have been in power for thousands and thousands of years, If you trace their blood and you trace their DNA, it goes all the way back to Babylon, to Sumeria, the cradle of civilization.
Yeah.
And these have been the people that have been in power. So we're at a very powerful time right now, because these people are people call the Illuminati, people that want the the New World Order, and this stuff is the conspiracy. It's like you could trace it down, you can find out, yeah, there's a very serious plan to create a one world system. When America was created, it was individuals that were escaping this force, that same force that was burning the books in Alexandria, that's just been chasing light from time after time, trying to cover up this knowledge. So they were escaping from that. America was an experiment. It was an experiment to create the first civilization, or the first country that operated by God's law, that operated by natural law of free, sovereign human beings. That's what the whole Constitution was all about. So this comes into play, and so then you have America is the youngest, earliest country, and then it became the most powerful country, and then it became the most like culture based, like hip hop, and then hip hop became the culture of the world, and all different countries all look towards this and you say, how did this happen? And it happened because you have individuals that helped with the creation of this, like Benjamin Banneker, that designed DC to match the constellations above, because the stars have energetic effect on reality. So the same thing that they did in the pyramids. So this country was an experiment to create this sovereignty, all about self-sovereignty, the sovereign soul, the free soul. So this happened, and interesting enough, this force that has been running the planet, it infiltrated through the government. So like the assassination of JFK. JFK was working against that system. He was working against that cabal, or what you would call the deep state. And so we're at a very interesting time, because America, the United States, that sovereignty, those sovereign principles, is the only thing that is standing between New World Order, standing between this one world government, this one world system, that is basically the system of that parasitic entity, that what it's working for, hundreds of years to accomplish this. So we're at a very incredible time where a lot of people are getting backwards information, that you had the whole election go down, and you had, it's very interesting, because you have Hillary Clinton that was supposed to win, and Hillary Clinton was connected to the cabal, to this deep state, to this entire system. She did not win. Trump won, and the entire media is like, he's evil, he's horrible, he's racist, he's this, he's that. And what people don't realize is that the entire media is the matrix. The entire media is mind control apparatus that is used by this system. And we're at this incredible time right now where that cabal and that deep state is falling apart rapidly, because it was supposed to win, but it did not win, because we're in the age of information, right? So we're in the age of Aquarius. So I wish that a lot of people would begin to observe from the point of view, to go out of their emotions, to look at what's happening here. What you find is that Trump's coming in, and he's reinstalling these aspects that made America sovereign. And it's pulling away everything that he's doing when you examine what's happening with on a political level, as far as like the economy is based, as far as America's sovereignty, is going in the opposite direction of what the New World Order was going into. And so it's very key for people to remember at this time, regardless of what they feel about him or what they feel about the system, to kind of step outside of the emotions and to examine what's happening. It's because our emotions are being manipulated right now. We're being told what to feel. We're like, this is the situation. And so people begin to step out of the emotions and to begin to examine what's happening here. we're at an incredible time, because we're at this time where the entire structure of America and the direction that it was going has been reversed. So it's going more back to about this sovereignty on the planet, the situation that happened with North Korea, where all of a sudden we have world peace that's like at the edge, like that wasn't supposed to happen. So much stuff wasn't supposed to happen that's happening right now. And so it's very key at the moment. The reason why it's key for people to step outside of their emotions and to just look at the stats, what's happening. You see that records are being broken right now. We're witnessing the economy at the best has been in 50 years, because this system is dying, and this system that's been holding everything together, it's like like stepping on the head of a snake, and that snake is jerking. So people are going to be witnessing a lot of chaos that's going to be happening, and that chaos is telling them to say, "Oh, it's Trump! It's Trump! This is not him." We don't have to worry about that. What we're actually witnessing is the dying of the old system, the dying of the old Piscean system. And a lot of stuff is going to be coming to surface about the massive corruption that has been going on behind the scenes. And we're at a very incredible time where it's not doom and gloom like a lot of people are thinking. So if anybody out there, any listeners, anybody that's caught up in the whole like politics, a lot of people getting so wound up about it, to remember to stay grounded, to bring yourself back to the breath, and to realize when you just look at the stats and you understand like the TPP and the Paris Agreement and all these different things were actually designed to create a one world system, and that plan has now been reversed. That plan is now can't come into play because because we're heading in a different direction. And this is the age of information, and it's very exciting, and it's going all back to it's more about metaphors. Like we're in a dream right now. This whole thing's a dream, and we're at this point where it's bringing back to sovereign. So the more people can connect with themselves, the more gentle that we are with each other, the more courteous that we are with each other, respectful of each other, no matter what our opinions are, the more that we're able to, connect with our family, connect with our friends, and bring ourselves back into the heart, because this is the most important time that we're in a good place, and we're in a good place in the heart, because if we're all caught up and we're freaking out, that's what we're going to be creating in our reality. We're creating more freak outs. So it's all about, right? It's all about calming down, getting back to the love, and smiling and rejoicing that we've dodged an incredible bullet. And this is the time now that we unite. This is the time now that people unite, and we're gentle with each other, and we love each other, and we treat the other person the way we want to be treated. It's very exciting.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Thank you very much. That was very interesting and exciting. And
yes. Lots of good information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for such a great interview.
All right.
Yeah.
Same here. It was a pleasure talking to you too.
Thank you, Ken. And
thank you, Ken.
Yeah. See you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Keep that light shining.
Yeah.
Much love.
Bye. Thank
Much
you.
love.